I never thought that I would see a day where I would be rooting for a university above Donald J. Trump and his administration.
You know it's getting bad for Trump when his biggest soldier, his most loyal warrior, the woman who said this.
How was the economy under Trump, and how are you doing today? And every time you ask that question, everyone knows that they were living better under Trump.
Yeah, we're all doing so much better now under Trump. The economy is booming. Yippee. Even Candace Owens has abandoned him, and he hasn't even made it to 100 days. We're watching the crumbling of the conservative coalition.
But I don't recognize this administration right now. I don't recognize what's happening.
And despite railing against higher education for a decade, the thing that makes Candace turn coat is Harvard. Harvard's been under attack by the Trump administration for claims of anti-Semitism being allowed to spread on campus. Trump doesn't give a good damn about Jewish people. I mean, his biggest idol is Adolf, let's be serious. But it's a great excuse for him to try to tear down one of the leading institutions in the world. Harvard is suing Trump in an attempt to stop this obvious conservative takeover of one of the largest liberal colleges and universities.
What they are indicating is that they want to directly review who we hire on our faculty. That has implications for what kinds of views can be expressed on campus. They also want to be able to tell us who we need to fire. And they also want to intervene in our admissions processes. That is what we are objecting to.
You're taking on the most powerful man in the world.
We are defending what I believe is one of the most important linchpins of the American economy and way of life, our universities.
Is this bigger than Harvard at this point?
Of course it's bigger than Harvard because we look at what's at risk here. And what's at risk is the excellence of higher education in the United States, and in particular, the research mission of many of our universities, which play such a vital role in the U.S. economy and in the health and well-being of the American people.
Is this a fight you can win?
I don't know the answer to this question, but the stakes are so high that we have no choice.
And now, all of a sudden, the Republicans care about anti-Semitism? Look, it's highly debatable that what's happening on these campuses even is anti-Semitism, but we all know that these conservatives cozy up to white supremacists and Christian nationalists who quite literally want to finish the job started in World War II. So the idea that now, all of a sudden, they care about anti-Semitism and they need to invade universities to root it out is completely ridiculous.
Harvard's lawsuit basically doubling down and saying you, the Trump administration, and Donald Trump can't do this legally.
Well, I think they're wrong, and I think it's unfortunate. Look, I was a proud graduate of Harvard. It's what took a poor kid from Kentucky and allowed me to get elected to Congress. We have to respect the fact that private institutions can run themselves how they want. But those private institutions have to accept they're not entitled to federal funds. And that's the decision Harvard's going to make. Do they want to continue down the path they've gone where they don't protect Jewish students, where they embrace anti-Semitism, or do they want to work with the Trump administration and we all work forward together? I hope they choose the latter path, but yesterday's decision was not promising.
Really? Now all of a sudden they're okay with stripping federal funds from universities who don't do what the government demands? Now they're okay with weaponizing the IRS and the FTC in order to come after liberal institutions? That's a pretty big change in tune compared to the last few decades where they cry oppression every time something didn't go their way.
The IRS under fire this morning for targeting the political enemies of President Obama.
If the IRS can go after you because of what you think or what you believe or what you do, we'd no longer live in a free country. That's what this is all about. And if you think they're not going to eventually use it against your politics, whatever they might be, it's ridiculous. They certainly will.
This is far worse than Watergate. This isn't an enemies list. These are direct actions that were taken against Americans who sought to exercise their free speech rights under the First Amendment.
If this were a Republican president targeting the ACLU or some of those groups and administration, I think the mainstream media would be apoplectic. So I think it's a definite double standard.
It's created this culture of intimidation that's pervasive throughout the White House and the federal government.
It's embarrassing for the country. These are things you typically see in the third world.
I can also assure you that were this a Republican president, a Republican Attorney General, and a Republican IRS that were targeting Democrats, I at least would speak out just as vigorously against it.
How scary is this to you?
It's just
not supposed to happen. They have laws against it. If this were somebody else, this would be the bigger story. And maybe it will, in fact, be the bigger story.
And it is, in fact, the bigger story because Trump decided to go after Harvard and, actually go after them, not just make it all up and complain about it on Fox News. But it's not going to work. You saw the president of Harvard speak out against this, and the lawsuit that they filed is going to have some real all-stars working on it. I mean, this is Harvard that we're talking about. The best legal minds in the country come from here, and they're not going to lay down and take it. Here's a Harvard law professor blasting Trump over this overreach.
We're talking about the rule of law. Donald Trump's threatened by schools that talk about the rule of law because he is a threat to the rule of law. When we have these types of programs and institutions threatened, it's a danger to the country, and it's the reason why these institutions need to and are now starting to stand up and fight.
Now, any working mind can rationalize why it might be a bad thing to allow the government to impose its own ideology on private institutions, why it might be a bad thing to allow the government to swoop in and scoop students off campus or take people at their court hearings. I hate racists, right? Genetically, I'm pretty much every single race. So a racist hates to see me coming. But I won't support the government having the ability to just disappear somebody because the government claims that they're racist. That would be a violation of due process and the First Amendment, and those protections are much more important than the satisfaction I would get to see a Klan member scared to voice their opinions. Candace Owens seems to have a working mind all of a sudden because she's the only one on the right who understands why Trump doing what he's doing spells disaster for the nation.
I never thought that I would see a day where I would be rooting for a university above Donald J. Trump and his administration. But I don't recognize his administration right now. I don't recognize what's happening. I have a theory. I do. We were kicking around some theories earlier, me and the team, and we were going, how could Trump be such a free speech enthusiast and allowing these things to happen? Going after college universities, trying to suppress speech, while pretending that you're not suppressing speech, while pretending that you're fighting DEI. It's so messy. It's so obvious. Everyone knows what you're doing. People who are still trying to grift, I suppose, are not willing to challenge you on this, which is ridiculous because when you are out of office, we are going to have to live with these consequences. Our children are going to have to grow up in this America. Okay. So when you threaten our speech, it's not worth it so that we can have pom-poms and go hurrah for a couple of years, then go, okay, well, yeah, now it kind of stinks because, we're getting arrested for wrongthink. We got David Friedman. Yeah, arrest him. Arrest Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Get them. I love it. And if you think it's going to stop with college campuses, you're out of your mind. So you better buck up and root for Harvard University in this fight.
God, I would love for Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens to get arrested. Oh, that would completely make my day, my year, my life. But I would want it to happen because they committed crimes, not just because they said stuff that I don't like or supported causes that I hate. There is a rule of law that is being eroded by Trump, and even Candace Owens, Mrs. White Lives Matter, Mrs. Hitler was just protecting his country, even she thinks that Trump is in the wrong here. We have officially entered the bizarro world where I'm agreeing with Candace Owens. God, this sucks. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.